What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the garage. Today we've got another multi-process machine to look at, and that is the DECAPOWER XtraMIG 200SYN, the SYN standing for Synergic. So it does have that feature. But before we get into this review, I just want to let you know that they did send this to me at no charge for the purpose of doing some videos and a review. So keep that in mind. However, as always, the thoughts and opinions in this video are my own and unbiased. Let's start with the basics. This is a 200 amp multi-process machine. This will do MIG, stick, and Lift Tig. Also, of course, flux core capable. It is spool gun ready and spool gun capable. However, it does not come with a spool gun. Before we get into what's included with this machine, they are looking at revamping what comes in the box, because compared to some others, there isn't as much included with this. And I've already spoken to them about that. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing. However, currently this is what is in the box if you were to order it today. So keep that in mind as well. First thing you're going to get is your MIG lead, of course, and it is pretty good quality. I have no complaints there. It has a nice long cable and nothing really to be concerned with there. Heavy duty. This screws in real nice here, and not much else to say about that. You do get a ground clamp. I've got that already hooked up to the table here, so it is an average length. I wish that was a little bit longer. However, it isn't really shorter than any other machines. It's just you have a nice long power cable on this machine and a nice long MIG lead, but then your ground clamp is still, 4 or 5 feet long. So wish that was a little bit longer. And then, of course, you do get your electrode holder for stick welding included with it. Nothing fancy, pretty typical, but will do the job just fine. So once again, no complaints there. I'm also not going to be going over the stick welding features in this video. I mean, it stick welds, it'll go up to 200 amps. So I also apologize if I'm glistening and things are sticking to me, because I have everything closed and all the fans off in here. So it's getting a little warm and it's very humid. So you'll just have to watch me glisten. So outside of those things, you do get a handheld like welding mask that's not worth really talking about. You also do get one of the little wire brush hammer combo things that's included with a lot of these machines. Other than that, you get one feed roller and one contact tip, and that's about it. You don't even get a hose for the gas. So if you buy this machine, you will have to go to your local hardware store and get some braided tubing like I've done back here. Not a big deal, but would be nice if that was included in the box. The hose is something we talked about for future additions to what's included with this machine as well. So that may change in the future, but currently you would need to go to the store and get yourself some hose. So let's get into some more features of this machine. You've got the Synergic function we've already talked about, spool gun capable if you need to weld aluminum. This machine will also hold 10 or 2 pound spools. We'll look at the feed mechanism and spool holder here in a little bit. This machine is 110 and 220 capable. The 220 plug is built onto the machine, and the adapter that comes with it will bring it down to a 110 plug. So you can use it on either, and it does adjust down. So on 220, this will go up to 200 amps on all welding functions. If you decide to use this on 110, keep in mind that you will be limited to 125 amps. That is to be expected, but worth talking about. This machine has a very large display for a welder of this price, and it is very, very clear and easy to read, which is really, really nice. It has limited buttons, so some of these are kind of multi-function. The knobs on this are not buttons, so they are just knobs. There's no extra functions there. So that being said, I'm going to turn this on. We'll take a look at the display and go through that, and then we'll take a look at the feed and do some weld tests. This first button here that is the circle made up of the 2 arrows is what cycles through your welding mode. So if you press this, it pulls up a screen, and that's got Synergic first, your MIG second, MMA, and then TIG is last here. And you just press it again to cycle through, and it'll change everything accordingly. So this button here with the 2 crossing arrows is what changes your material and your gas selection. So if you hit this button, it'll run you through each one individually. So you got steel, stainless steel, flux core, and then a couple different aluminums there. And then you can also change your gas here. Like, see how this is flashing both argon and CO2. But if you go to it again here, it'll flash. So here it's flashing just CO2. So that's what I'm going to use because that's what I have. And you can see it gets rid of everything else on the display there. This wire spool button is for your wire diameter. So I'm using .030, which is 0.6 millimeters. This does change based on what material and process you're in. So this button with the gears is your other settings and like fine tuning. You've got like an inductance setting, you've got your burn back time, pre and post flow, and then you've got your like 2T and 4T. There's all kinds of stuff in here. I haven't honestly even gotten into it all yet. So this second one in is your inductance setting, and as you can see here, it's going to change this welding profile little diagram. So it's all the way up at 10 now. If you start dialing that back, it's going to show you a change in the welding profile. Now, how accurate and like how useful this is, I don't really know. It looks cool, and it may come in handy. I've been messing with this, and it's just kind of hard. There's so many variables that for this to be 100% accurate and like on the spot, it's not really going to be a thing. So take that for what you will. It does look nice, and it is kind of a neat feature. So then, as you can see, this knob here does change these settings. So then, as you can see here in synergic mode, you've got all of the same settings. That carries through. Even though it's synergic and you set the amperage and it's supposed to do the rest, you still can fine tune everything to your liking. So other than that, in some of the other modes, it just changes amperage and it gives you a suggested material thickness here. That's all that is. So you don't have to pay too much attention to that. You do have some other settings in here though. You've got VRD, anti-stick, hot start, and arc force. So it's a pretty full featured welder, especially with MIG, but even when you get into the other modes as well. And here in TIG, you literally just have amperage is going to auto set your gas, and then of course you can dial up through, and it's also going to give you that thickness recommendation. That being said, let's take a look at the internals and the feed mechanism. Alright, so on this side here, you've got your spool gun switches inside. So standard for regular MIG lead, up would be for a spool gun if you need to do that. Here's your feed mechanism, all metal pretty much, so that's really nice to see. It's very simple, pretty standard as far as this system goes. Cap here to change out your roller for different wire sizes. Now remember when I said that this doesn't come with a whole lot, it only comes with one feed roller, so you can only do 0.030 and 0.035 out of the box with regular solid core wire. Does not come with anything for flux core, and it does. Now the one gripe I've got with this, and I'm not sure if there's something just with this particular example of this machine, but you can see this is kind of flopping around here. This adapter for these 10-pound spools doesn't seem to me like it sits down far enough on the holder. So there's a gap here. I can put my finger between this lip and the spool, and it can't go in any further because there's a shoulder on this spool holder that prevents that from happening. So this is tightened all the way down, and it just, I don't know, maybe it's just this particular spool, but I think these are pretty standard, so I don't think that's the case. So just something to keep in mind. It's been working fine this way, but if it goes too far this way, it will go off and be sideways. So just something to be aware of there. But other than that, everything else is pretty standard. Everything looks good. This housing is all metal. This divider panel is steel as well. The front, everything on this case is steel as far as the exterior goes, aside from the handles on the top. On the back of the machine here, there isn't a whole lot to talk about. You've got just your power switch, your power cord, and then the gas hose barb. So, and then there's a fan at the bottom as well. Now that we've gone over all the specs and features, at least all the major ones, I'm going to do a couple weld tests here on this plate I've got, and we'll get some final thoughts and opinions on this machine. The big selling point of this machine to me is the fact that you've got this nice big display where you can easily see everything and know what everything's set to without going through menus or dealing with some little 2 or 3 digit screen that just displays numbers. You can really see what is set to what very, very easily and quickly. If I had to give one gripe or complaint about this machine, it would be the spool holder design. I don't like that there's that much room for it to kind of move around and actually come off the spacer and kind of tilt. It didn't cause any major issues for me. However, I could see where potentially it could cause a problem. So just keep that in mind. And you really could probably find something to put in there to take up that gap. Or if you have a 3D printer or know somebody who has one, you could print one of those caps and it would take up the slack. And 3D printing is perfect for things like that. Otherwise, nothing else really to complain about. It's just that in this price range, this machine as it sits currently does not come with a bunch of accessories like other machines do. So keep that in mind. I don't think you shouldn't buy the machine because of that. It is a good welder. It welds great. But just know whether you're going to do gas or flux core, there's a couple things you're going to have to get in order to be able to do either of those things out of the box. You either have to buy hose for your gas setup, or you're going to have to go buy rollers for flux core wire. So be aware of it. Just know that this machine does not come packed with a ton of extra stuff, and you may have to buy a couple things to get started. So maybe not necessarily a beginner machine, but if you're looking to step up from like a flux core welder into a MIG welder or multi-process welder, this would be a great option to go with. Everything's high quality as far as the build goes. All of the accessories that are included are of high quality from what I can tell. So not a bad way to go for around $400 to $450 depending on the deals or discounts going on at the time. DECAPOWER does offer a few machines below this in their line, and basically they pull back a few features from what I can tell. So if you don't need all these features in this machine and want to save a little bit of money, you can take a look and see what the other machines offer. I think it's definitely worth taking a look at, and I look forward to using it a bit more in the future and really getting this thing dialed in.